I've slept with my married friend's ex. So my best friend Courtney has been married to her husband Dave for like 3 years now. Before Dave, she dated this guy Nathan for almost 2 years in college. They broke up because Nathan moved across the country for a job and neither of them wanted long distance. It was pretty civil from what Courtney told me back then. Fast forward to last month. I'm at this work conference in Seattle and I ran into Nathan at the hotel bar. We recognized each other immediately and started catching up. He bought me a drink. We talked about old times and honestly it felt really easy and comfortable. He mentioned he was back in town permanently for a new position at some tech company. We kept drinking and laughing and before I knew it we were making out in the elevator. I know how this sounds, but at that moment I genuinely wasn't thinking about Courtney at all. We went back to his room and slept together. The next morning I woke up and immediately felt sick about it. Not because of him or the night itself, but because I realized what I'd actually done. This was Courtney's ex. Sure, they broke up years ago and she's happily married now, but still. Nathan asked if I wanted to grab breakfast and I made up some excuse about an early meeting. I got out of there as fast as possible and spent the whole flight home trying to figure out what to do. When I got back, I acted completely normal around Courtney. We met for coffee like we always do on Thursdays and she was going on about some renovation she and Dave are planning for their kitchen. I just sat there nodding and smiling while internally freaking out. Here's where it gets worse. 2 weeks after Seattle, Nathan texts me. Apparently he got my number from some mutual connection from college. He wants to meet up for dinner, says he had a great time and wants to see me again. I panicked and didn't respond for 3 days, but then he texted again saying he'd be at this restaurant downtown on Friday if I wanted to join. Something in me was curious, so I went. Dinner was actually really nice. We talked for hours about everything from our jobs to travel to stupid reality TV shows we're both obsessed with. He walked me to my car and kissed me goodnight. I drove home knowing I was in deep trouble because I actually liked him. We started seeing each other regularly after that. Coffee dates, dinners, movies, the whole thing, and the entire time I'm hiding it from Courtney. Every time she mentions Dave or talks about married life, I feel like the worst person alive, but I still don't say anything. Then last week, Courtney called me freaking out. She ran into Nathan at the grocery store. They chatted briefly and he mentioned he was seeing someone new but didn't say who. Courtney was genuinely happy for him and told me the whole story because she thought it was nice that he'd found someone. I just said, yeah, that's cool, and changed the subject as fast as I could. Yesterday, Nathan told me he wants me to meet his parents who are visiting next month. That's when it hit me that this isn't just some casual thing anymore. This is getting serious and I can't keep lying to Courtney. So now I'm stuck between telling my best friend that I'm dating her ex and watching our entire friendship explode or keeping it a secret forever, which also seems impossible at this. Story 2. I read a message from an anonymous Instagram account telling me my wife was seen holding hands with her male coworker after a work function. And my wife says she was too drunk to remember if anything happened, but that the messenger is her jealous female coworker trying to stir trouble. Posted by you thrower holding hands. My wife 36F and I 40M have been together 5 years and got married last year. We definitely have our ups and downs, but we're generally happy. On Friday, she went out with people from her work for Christmas drinks and arrived home around midnight. Absolutely hammered. She just said she'd had a good time and went straight to bed. Yesterday, I got a message on Instagram from an anonymous account claiming to be one of her colleagues, saying she'd been flirting all night with one of the guys from the office, 44M, and they'd left together at about 9:00 to walk to the train station. The colleague had a couple more drinks, then went to the station herself and said she saw my wife walking hand in hand with the guy through the station at about 10:45. They didn't see her. Last night, I showed her the message and asked her for an explanation. She claimed she was so drunk she doesn't remember anything that happened after about 8:00 p.m. I asked if she went somewhere with the guy after they left the group, and she checked the location history on her phone, which confirmed that they had gone to a bar near the station for about an hour. They arrived at the station at 10:40. She gave me her phone and insisted I check it, and there were no suspicious messages or anything. As far as I could tell, she doesn't have the guy's number in her phone, and they're not following each other on Instagram or friends on Facebook. I asked if she was flirting with him and she admitted that she was talking mostly to him all night, but that's just because he's the only person in her office she has anything in common with, and that they're just friends and it wasn't flirting. She's mentioned this guy to me before and said how much they have in common. I asked if they were holding hands and she said she doesn't remember, but she doesn't think so. She claims to know who sent me the message and says it's a woman in the office who hates her, although she doesn't know why. Today she's been in a terrible mood and we've not really spoken. So that's where we are. I'm not sure what to do. Is this as big a red flag as it seems to be? Top relevant comments commenter. There are a collection of issues here, but the terrible mood today seems like a big one. The information you received is largely correct. It looks a bit fishy, and instead of offering reassurance, she is in retaliation mode. No doubt focusing on her office rival. She should be apologizing and doing what she can to defuse the situation. Getting so drunk you can't recall and focusing on a particular man, then going off privately with him. I wonder how she would feel if this were something you had done. Tell her to lose the attitude and figure out how she plans to sort this out. Commenter 2, so she was too drunk to remember anything for 4 hours yet was still capable of getting herself home. If nothing had happened, I feel like her answer would have been what? No, I didn't do that. Instead, it was well, I don't remember. Yes, I was talking to him a lot. Yes, we went to a bar alone, but nothing happened. I don't remember anything, but I definitely remember that nothing happened. Somehow that woman's out to get me. Now I'm going to sulk. And oof, that's not the answer you want to hear. Update 9 days later. A few people requested an update to my last post, and a lot has happened in the last week, so here it is. I'll post any further updates on my profile. TDLR, my wife Sam got drunk on a work night out and was seen holding hands with a guy from her office. Sam came home from work on Monday and casually said that she'd spoken with the guy, Tom, and he'd confirmed that they hadn't held hands. They'd just been walking arm in arm because she was drunk and wearing heels. I asked why her colleague Helen would make an Instagram account, track me down, and messaged me saying they held hands if it wasn't true. She said Helen is basically in love with Tom and made a pass at him just after his divorce, but he rejected her. I asked why Helen would feel threatened by her. She said because she and Tom are friends and Helen's a crazy jealous BTCH as evidenced by the Instagram message. I asked why she went for a drink with just Tom. She said that according to Tom, they walked past this bar with an amazing live band playing, so they stopped in for a drink. Her only regret was doing too many shots too early and getting crab-faced. The next day, she went shopping after work and came home with a new dress. I asked what the occasion was and she said her work Christmas party. Last week I just drank with people from her office. The company Christmas party is on Friday. Apparently she'd mentioned this. I hardly slept that night. The next day, I decided to reply to the Instagram message to get some more info. I asked, "Do you think anything's going on with them?" Helen, I assume, quickly replied with a long message saying that they flirt at work and everyone's noticed. Apparently, Sam was going to be let go, but Tom put in a good word, so she kept her job. Tom protects her in the office and will constantly defend her. She also said that Sam beaches about me to the whole office and it's clear we don't have a happy marriage. I asked if she was going to the Christmas party and she said she was. She said she'd update me if anything happened. Sam finished work early on Friday, so she had time to get ready. She looked amazing and I really didn't want her to go, but I felt like I couldn't say anything. I got an Instagram message about midnight saying that Sam and Tom hadn't interacted at the party, but that people from the office had decided to leave and go to a different bar. They all left just before 11:00 and were at the new bar by 10. Sam and Tom turned up just before midnight. Sam arrived home about 2:00 a.m., not quite as drunk as last time, and went straight to sleep. I pretended to be fast asleep. I looked at the location history on her phone. After leaving the venue, she'd taken a 3-mile detour to a residential street, stayed for half an hour, then gone to the bar. I sent the address to Helen. She didn't reply until the next morning when she said it was Tom's house. When Sam woke up, I just asked her straight out if she cheated on me with Tom last night. She angrily denied it. I told her that I knew she'd been to Tom's house. She accused me of spying on her, called me controlling, and said she was going to stay with her sister. I demanded an explanation and she said she went to his house so they could smoke a joint before heading to the bar. Then she stormed out. She wouldn't reply to my messages or answer my calls all day Sunday. I called her sister, who said she hadn't seen her, but she texted me later that she'd spoken to Sam and she was okay. Sam came home yesterday morning. I asked where she'd been and she just said she couldn't do this anymore and wanted a divorce. She went to start packing some clothes while I tried to get her to talk to me. I asked if she was leaving me for Tom. She once again denied anything inappropriate had happened between them, but said my jealousy was the final straw. It's clear I don't trust her. I'm controlling. I take her for granted. She's deeply unhappy. It has been for a while, so she's gone. It looks like I'll be spending my first Christmas alone. I have no idea if she was telling the truth or if it was an affair. Weirdly, I'm not feeling too bad today, so maybe this is for the best. Top relevant comments commenter. She did the hard part for you. She is 100% full of crap. Best of luck to you this holiday season. Commenter 2, I understand the possibility of a jealous coworker making up a story to get someone in trouble like she claimed, but when your spouse brings that to your attention, you'd think it would be smart to maybe not go to the guy's house alone within a week. She knew the relationship was coming to an end and didn't care. Second update 20 days later. Once she was gone, Sam blocked me on all her social media and refused to return my messages or answer my calls. I ended up traveling to the other side of the country to spend Christmas with my parents. On Christmas Eve, Sam came home and took more of her stuff. I watched her on our security cameras. I tried phoning her, but she ignored my calls. Christmas wasn't great, and my parents were both shocked and in denial about what had happened. They had no idea we were having issues and insisted Sam would come to her senses and come home. Eventually, I just said she'd met someone else. I returned home on the 27th. I've been getting sporadic updates from Sam's sister, just letting me know she's all right, but without any details. Before all this happened, we'd made plans to spend New Year's Eve at Sam's favorite bar in the city. I went on my own, but she didn't show up. On Tuesday night, I received an Instagram message from Helen saying that Sam and Tom had arrived at work together in Tom's car. I didn't bother replying. On Wednesday night, she sent another message saying Sam was poisoning the office against her and that Tom was pushing up her management to transfer her to another office or get rid of her. She begged me to do something. I texted Sam and said we needed to talk, but she didn't reply. So the next day, I called her work switchboard, gave a fake name, and got put through. I could tell she wasn't happy to hear my voice, but she agreed to meet up after work at a local pub and talk. I got there early and she arrived 25 minutes late. She apologized for ignoring my calls and said she still cares about me and wants to end things on good terms. I said, just tell me the truth. She promised that she wasn't having an affair with Tom and they were just friends. She admitted that they talk a lot in the office, but insisted it wasn't an emotional affair. She understands why I was suspicious after the Instagram message, but said I should have accepted her denial and trusted her. She has a lot of male friends, but she felt like she couldn't hang out with them because I'd get jealous. I pointed out that I've never told her not to hang out with anyone, but she said I'd be in a mood whenever she'd hang out with a guy friend. She feels like we only got married to try and fix a relationship that was already broken. Our conversations have devolved into small talk and we've drifted apart. I said I'd heard that she and Tom arrived at work together. Sam said she went to Tom's after I accused her of cheating and knew it was over between us. They spent the weekend together and agreed that they'd make a better couple than we did. She needed me to know that nothing happened between them until after she told me she wanted a divorce. And now they were together and she wanted me to hear it from her before I saw it on social media. Tom was waiting outside for her in the car. All I could do was stand up and walk out. Sam texted me saying she knew I was upset but not to do anything stupid. I blocked her number. I'm not going to lie, it was a rough night. The next day I was just numb, didn't really do much. Over the weekend I dug out our marriage certificate so I can start divorce proceedings. I have no idea what to say to Helen, so I haven't replied. I think the plan now is to try and find a new job closer to my hometown. I moved across the country to live with Sam and I've never really felt settled here. I also don't want to run into her and Tom around town. Luckily we rent. This will probably be my last update unless something miraculous happens, so thanks for reading. Top relevant comments. Commenter, she's lying her bum off. She could have gone to anyone's house to spend the night, but she went to his. She didn't decide that they'd make a better couple until after you called her out on it. She was cheating the entire time, got caught and lied. It was emotional and physical. Now she can blame you for everything. It's all your fault because you're insecure and didn't trust her. Complete BS. Commenter 2. Hey man, I've been through something similar and I have known a bunch of people who have as well. Let me tell you that your experience is very typical for someone on the receiving end of a cheating spouse. It will drive you crazy because you will never know the full truth, but your wife was almost certainly having an affair for a while with this guy. Very typical behavior for cheating spouses is to shift blame off themselves to justify their affair, i.e. blocking you everywhere, acting like your controlling behavior drove her to this guy, minimizing your entire relationship, trashing you to anyone who will listen, etc. They will also almost never tell you the truth or admit to the affair, no matter the evidence. They will continue to lie, excuse, and gaslight. Be glad this happened now rather than after wasting more years of your life with this person. They are gone from your life and have written you off. They have told everyone they can think of that you are awful in an effort to protect themselves if accusations of their infidelity come around. Move on, minimize contact, and come to terms with the fact that you aren't going to have any further honest communication with your ex. Get therapy. Life goes on. Third update. 4 months later, my soon-to-be ex-wife is pregnant and has suggested to her friend that it's mine. The only way this is possible is if she's had our final frozen embryo implanted without my permission. If that's what she's done, then either the IVF clinic hasn't asked for my sign-off or she somehow convinced them that I've granted permission. When I left our shared house in January, I couldn't find my passport, so it's likely she has it. I'm waiting for a call back from the clinic, but I'm freaking out and want to get an idea of the potential consequences. Could she get sent to prison? What will happen to the clinic? What happens when the baby arrives, considering the circumstances? We're in England. Thanks. Edit. I finally spoke to the clinic manager and it seems this is all down to my own stupidity. When our last embryo didn't take, we signed all the paperwork a few weeks later to do the final transfer. My wife then developed some hormonal issues, so we paused the process until she could get it sorted out. Then, for various reasons, we decided not to proceed with the transfer, which she told the clinic. Apparently, they just paused the process for up to 3 years in order to protect our deposit, and the consent forms remained valid. My wife had the transfer 6 weeks ago. Fourth update 4 months later. My ex-wife is pregnant with our first child due on Christmas Eve. There's more detail in my profile, but essentially we broke up last Christmas and I moved back in with my parents 200 plus miles away. She started a relationship with a coworker which caused so much drama at her work that in February, she reached a mutual agreement to immediately resign in exchange for 6 months' salary. The relationship ended, and she used the settlement money to restart the IVF process we paused years earlier. When I found out she was pregnant, I contacted the IVF clinic who explained that the contracts we'd signed at the start of the process were still valid and they hadn't done anything wrong. I disagreed, and thanks to the advice and recommendations of our legal advice, I hired solicitors specializing in clinical negligence and contract law. They managed to negotiate a settlement with the clinic in lieu of legal action. My ex and I ended up with about £80,000 each after fees. Plus, the clinic updated their processes to require that consent be reconfirmed by both parties before any embryo transfer takes place. For the last 4 months, I've been in regular contact with my ex, discussing settlement negotiations and traveling down south for scans. When I asked why she did it, she just said that she knew this was her last chance to have a baby. And when she came into some money, she took it as a sign that she should go ahead with the embryo transfer before I remembered to withdraw consent. She's since been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which in her mind has absolved her of any responsibility for her actions. She's desperate for us to get back together and raise our son as a family. I'm not interested in being a couple, but I obviously don't want to be 200 m away from my son. I've got a new job, so I really didn't want to move back down to Hampshire. However, she was willing to move up to Yorkshire as long as we lived together, so we agreed to spend the settlement money on a house in my hometown. I picked up the keys last week and I've been furnishing and decorating in preparation for us moving in next week. My ex has no friends or family around here and no job. Us living together is going to be super awkward, but once the baby comes, I'm hoping we can get into a co-parenting routine. The new house has 3 bedrooms, so we'll have 1 each and 1 for our son. We've agreed not to see other people for at least 3 years, her request. What's the best way to navigate this situation? We're both very excited to be parents, and I hope I'm making the best of a crappy situation, but it's obviously fraught with potential pitfalls. I don't see us rekindling a romantic relationship. In an ideal world, we'll live together for a few years, then sell the house, by which point she'll be settled here and we can live close to each other and co-parent our son. I hope I'm not being unbelievably naive and making a huge mistake. My parents are excited to be grandparents, but they're not keen on the idea of us living together. Top relevant comments. Commenter, you are being unbelievably naive and making a huge mistake. Apparently, you have also lost your mind. Commenter 2, why did she receive any money from a settlement against the clinic when she mindfully and knowingly used the clinic? Ops response. My solicitor added her to the complaint. Their argument was that she shouldn't have been allowed to go ahead with the procedure without my consent, and that because the clinic didn't seek that consent, we've both been harmed as we'll be jointly responsible for a baby as a result of the illegal procedure. Not sure how that would play out in court, but the clinic was very keen to settle. Fifth update 3 months later. To say my last post got a negative response would be an understatement. It was a strange feeling reading all the replies saying what a mistake I was making after putting in so much thought and spending lots of time and effort to get where I was. Someone sent me a link to a TikTok of my previous posts. Hearing the worst time of my life being read out loud really affected me and brought out a lot of feelings of guilt and shame. It made me realize that I hadn't even begun to process what happened last Christmas or why, and I contacted a therapist the next day. Sam moved in the day before my first appointment. It was awkward, but she was busy organizing her new room, so I just left her to it. That night, we ordered pizza and watched a movie. It was nice. I met the therapist the next day and explained the situation. He thought the whole thing was a bad idea, but as we were now living together, he agreed to help us navigate things as smoothly as possible. He thought Ku's therapy would be the best option. Sam and I have seen him every week since then and gone through our entire relationship. After 4 miscarriages, the last 2 at 12+ weeks absolutely wrecked Sam's mental health. I started cooling on the idea of continuing to try for a child. Instead of talking to Sam, she so desperately wanted to be a mom, I thought it would break her. I just pulled away from her. Of course, she noticed and blamed herself and began spiraling. Couple this with undiagnosed bipolar disorder and the hormone issues which resulted from the IVF, and it was a recipe for disaster. Sam thought possibly correctly that I wanted out of the relationship but was too cowardly to come out and say it. So I just checked out and waited for her to get sick of me. The whole Tom situation was the straw that broke the camel's back, and she gave up fighting for our marriage and let me get out guilt-free. In therapy, I've learned to accept my responsibility for the breakup of our marriage. I wasn't a good husband towards the end, and it's a miracle Sam stuck around as long as she did. The time apart made me realize how much I still love her. We've agreed to try and embrace what's happened and be thankful it brought us to where we are now. Hopefully, we've both learned lessons that will make our relationship stronger. I know I have. So we're now back living as a couple. I canceled the divorce, which was taking ages as Sam refused to engage with it. Our son was born on December 11th, 2 weeks earlier than expected, and he's absolutely perfect. I'm holding him as I write this. I know a lot of people who read my previous posts will be disappointed with how I've handled this, but at the end of the day, we've only got one chance at life, and I honestly can't think of a better way to spend mine. Thanks for all your advice over the past year, and Merry Christmas. Top relevant comments. Commenter: oh poor guy, you let yourself be manipulated into taking her back. This was why people told you moving in together was a bad idea. Didn't it ever occur to you that her getting pregnant with your child without your consent is another manipulation tactic? Then this sob story, you fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker. Op's response: yes, that did occur to me, but bear in mind, we've been trying for a child for 3 years. 2 cycles of IVF and 4 embryo transfers resulted in miscarriage. The only reason we didn't go for the 5th transfer was the toll it was taking on Sam's mental and physical health. She truly believed this was her last chance at having a baby and that I was going to withdraw consent. To me, that's forgivable, but of course, I understand where you're coming from. Commenter 2: man, don't rug sweep the Tom situation. Did Helen lose her job because of them? Op's response: no, Sam lost her job and Helen stayed. Tom didn't step in to save Sam, which caused a huge argument and led to them breaking up. Tom moved to a new company a few months later. 6th update: 5 months later. My wife gave birth to our son in December. She suffers from untreated bipolar disorder, and after Christmas she developed severe PPD. We agreed that she'd go and stay with her mom for a week as she was spiraling and needed a break. She never came back and was no longer in direct contact. Our last conversation was over a month ago, and it didn't go well. She apparently has no interest in being in our son's life or even getting updates on him. As far as I know, she's still living with her mom 200+ miles away. I've been offered a secondment at my company's Swedish office covering maternity leave for a year. I want to take it, but I don't want to tell my wife as she would likely try to throw a spanner in the works. I have my son's passport and original birth certificate. Can I just go without telling her? We also own a house together, which I'd like to rent out while I'm away. If she turns up out of the blue and finds someone else living here, could she do anything? There's no mortgage and all the bills are in my name, but she's on the deeds. To be clear, if she ever decides to unblock me and wants to see our son, then of course we'd come back. I'm not looking to take him away from her forever, but I think this would be good for us. 7th update: 1 year later. It's been almost 2 years since my original post, written in a panic after I received an anonymous Instagram message saying my wife had been seen holding hands with another man. It's been a crazy couple of years, which I've documented on this random Reddit profile, mainly due to the lack of people in my real life to discuss this with. This will be my last post on this account. I want to thank everyone who gave me advice over the years, even when it was obvious I wasn't going to listen to it. I still get messages asking for updates, so here's the final one. There's no point going into all the gory details, but needless to say, most of you are right that Sam and I getting back together would be a disaster. We had a good couple of months with a new baby and a new house, but things started going downhill fast in the new year, and Sam's mental health fell off a cliff once I went back to work. She ended up staying with her mom for a week and never came back. We had a big argument on FaceTime, and then she stopped all contact and blocked me everywhere. Luckily, my parents are retired and stepped in to watch the baby while I was at work. I soon started working from home, which helped. A few months after Sam left, my boss asked if I'd be interested in a secondment to our company's Swedish office to cover maternity leave for a year. As Sam was refusing to speak to me, I was just going to accept the job and move to Sweden without telling her. Thankfully, Reddit gave me a lot of good advice about what a bad idea that would be. I reached out to Sam's uncle on Facebook, and he gave me her mom's number. She was pleased to hear from me and filled me in on just how bad Sam's mental health had become, culminating in a manic episode that led to her spending 2 weeks at an inpatient facility. I explained my side of the story, and a few weeks later, she'd managed to convince Sam to meet with me, so I drove down with our son. It was the first time Sam had seen either of us in about 4 months, and for the first time since we got together, I didn't feel any love for her. I didn't feel anything except resentment, not even pity, and she was acting as pitiful as possible. Her refusal to interact with our son made my blood boil, but I put all that to one side and we finally had a conversation. I won't go into too much detail, but Sam is now on medication, which is making a big difference. She doesn't feel ready to be a mother and doesn't know if she ever will. Her behavior over the past few years has been down to her mental health. She feels like she needs to travel in order to fully recover. We agreed that I'd take primary custody of our son and move to Sweden with him for at least a year. Sam would sign over her half of the house for £25,000 and no child support payments. We'd proceed with the divorce. I'd set aside an hour each week for Sam to FaceTime our son. As soon as I got back home, I hired a solicitor to get the ball rolling on all the paperwork. Sam signed the child arrangements order, making me the resident parent, and signed over her half of the house. My parents gave me £25,000. I put the house up for rent and took the job in Sweden. My son and I moved to Gothenburg over a month ago. So far, I'm absolutely loving it. Everyone in the office is nice. On weekends, we jump on a tram and explore the city. Gothenburg is beautiful and clean and peaceful with lots of culture and events for bobbies. My parents were happy to have a month in Sweden looking after the baby and decorating the apartment while I was in the office. My son turns 1 just before Christmas, and when I go back to work in January, he'll be old enough for preschool. I'm working from home for the rest of the year. Sam's currently backpacking in Indonesia. We FaceTime occasionally, not every week, but apparently the signal over there can be spotty. When Sam's not available, we FaceTime with her mom. Reading my previous posts today makes me cringe. They were written in a deep depression that I wasn't even aware of until I was on the other side of it. Sam was my first real relationship. Before we met, my life was miserable. After we got together, my life was perfect for a while, or at least so much better, it seemed perfect. I didn't want to and wasn't expecting to break up. I assumed my only 2 options were being with Sam or going back to my terrible single life. And when we first broke up and I moved back in with my parents, it seemed like I was right. I kind of forgot about the bad times and just remembered that perfect first year when we were a new couple. I was miserable and desperately wanted her back. Then suddenly she was back and pregnant with my baby. Even after the whole Tom thing, I thought this was a chance to reset our relationship, start fresh, and be happy again. I can now see that I put her on a pedestal throughout our relationship. We were one of those couples who never argued, as I just let her walk all over me and go along with whatever she wanted. I don't have any real-life friends and was always terrified of losing her. Ironically, this walking on eggshells was a big part of why our marriage collapsed in the first place. I let her get away with murder out of fear of being alone. I'm seeing a new therapist and working through the damage these last few years have done. I feel a lot of guilt and regret, but then I look at my son and feel guilty for being regretful. It's a mess, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. I've started taking Swedish lessons and I'm going to sign up for ice hockey in the new year. I played roller hockey in my youth to hopefully make some friends. The woman whose maternity leave I'm covering might not be coming back, so it's possible I'll be able to stay here more than a year, maybe permanently. I want to thank everyone who gave me advice over the years and all the people who called me a doormat or an idiot or hopelessly naive. You were right, reading back through the thousands of comments over the last few months has actually helped me move forward. So, thank you, top relevant comments commenter. I'm so glad to hear you're doing better. I remember your posts, and seeing that you were moving back in with her was such a poor moment. I'm sorry things did go to hell so badly, but I'm glad you and your little man are in a better situation. Comment or 2, I hope Op finds a new relaxed life in Sweden. His previous posts were so jarring. It's insane how violating it would feel to be forced to become a parent when your ex gets her hands on the last thing that would forcefully thrust her back into your life after divorce proceedings started. What a horrible day to forget to withdraw consent immediately from an IVF clinic. It might not be SA, but it's pretty up there in terms of how traumatic such a revelation would be. I get why he was unraveling mentally so much after this. Now he can't ever fully shield himself from her because they're tied together by the shared child until death. It's hard to be rational when you feel like your choices were taken from you. This whole saga is just sad, and I hope he can build something that feels more stable and loving in his new environment and be a good dad to his child. Commenter 3. Sam was desperate to be a mom and then ran away. I truly hope she travels forever and leaves Op alone. Having a son is probably the best thing for Op. He seems to love being a dad. Selfish Sam will probably want to disrupt his peace in a few years, demand to get back together.